did not change.
Thank you.
So, what guidance did we give to the principal? We just gave him a number.
No, they have a whole budget packet that they've been given, along with their per pupil allotment.
We go ahead and forecast. We work with the Department of Student Services and
They give projections.
George Leah to project out what the enrollment count will be for next year as well.
They project or we project?
We
project
it and
give
provide
them-
it by school.
We give them the projection, and then that's how they base their
As best we
budget.
can.
And then they look at the school level. We provide them with a dollar amount, and they figure out what their needs are to support their school, whether it be in materials of instruction, textbooks, and what their equipment needs are, cafeteria tables, new desk tables, chairs, things of that nature.
They do not decide on staffing. I mean, the salaries are separate from all of that.
Salaries are separate. They provide some.
There's no salaries involved in that,
Right.
their budget, no.
We decide that.
And could we as a board get the projections that were sent out, the enrollment
Sure.
projections that were sent out to the schools? And you had talked about that IT did an
Needs
assessment.
assessment.
And were the principals were involved in that, so they know what
Yes,
is coming
principals have
down
been
the pipe?
informed, yes. Principals have been informed of what they need, yes.
So certain schools, depending on how they are set for computers, number of computers, may have to allocate a sizable portion of that
Correct.
because of the new assessments that are coming.
That is correct.
So that's what we're looking at as a school system, because some of them won't be able to afford that, all right?
Correct. That is why we're looking at it, and they are well informed, so.
So when this budget document is developed, it's actually developed based on the categories per COMAR. There are 14 categories. So this document is laid out exactly in accordance with COMAR. Then within each of the categories, they're laid out further by programs, and a lot of those programs are actually dictated by the Teal Book, which is the Maryland Financial Reporting Manual for public schools. When we look at developing the projections, we're looking at actually what the September 30th enrollment count is. Currently, the state and county maintenance of effort funding level is at $12,127 per FTE or full-time equivalent. As of September 30th, 2012, the enrollment count was at 15,882 FTEs, and it dropped as of September 30th of this year to 15,818, so a drop of 64 FTEs. By factoring in that reduction in FTEs, that equates to a reduction projection for state funding purposes of $320,000, for county appropriation of $414,000. We also had a one-time planned use of fund balance in FY14 of $2.4 million. So looking at the factors at that point in time, we would be looking at a reduction in funding going into FY15 of $2.6 million. However, we've already met with the county government, and they have stated that they will hold us harmless with respect to the reduction in students. So with taking that in consideration, we're now looking at a $2.2 million reduction in revenues.
It helps.
It absolutely does. In finalizing the FY13 budget, we were able to increase or carry forward additional monies. So we have an additional $1.6 million in fund balance that we can utilize to support the FY15 budget if you so desire. So that reduces our reduction in revenues to $644,000.
But that sort of digs a hole for us for next year.
It does, but we're already in that hole as well.
Yeah.
And we've been in that hole for several years.
Yeah, can't get out of
But at least that hole isn't as deep,
it. It is. Starting to
going from
fill in.
2.4
Yes.
to 1.6.
Good point.
On the expenditure side, for salaries and wages, we provided no increases in the projections, nor have we provided increases in the areas of contracted services, supplies and materials, and other. We absolutely know for a fact that health insurance will increase simply based on our prior trends and the trends in the market. On the screen, what we're showing is a 5% increase. Market trends are at 8% at this time. We're hoping for 5, obviously, but it could be as high as 10%. Just going to an 8% increase would result in an increase of, instead of $1 million, $1.6 million. The state law has dictated what our pension contribution will be, both as a contribution from the county government to us and what we will be contributing to State Retirement Agency. And that number for next fiscal year will be increasing by $1 million to $4.5 million. So as you can see on the expenditure side, we're looking at an increase of approximately $2 million with just those two components.
What is the transfer line again?
If the
bottom?
legislature didn't do something about agency.
That's for non-county placements, out-of-county transfers.
So we don't have any, no other market trends are reflected here, such as the price of diesel.
Diesel's actually looking pretty good right now.
Really?
Yes.
And, any weather-related things for like electricity or anything, heating oil and stuff like that. So we're assuming it's all going to stay the same as last year.
We'll continue to look at what our trends have been for this year and utilize those to base next year's budget. But our hope is that we can certainly just move monies around within those categories so that the net effect will be level.
Now, when we have a reduction in FTEs, theoretically, we can have a reduction in miles.
And I'm sorry, what?
Well, a little bit, in miles driven. I mean, we should have, some of our spending is per pupil. Some of it, not a lot.
When you're talking about 64
64 is probably
FTEs, it's very
it's
insignificant.
just a drop in the bucket, yeah. Yeah, you can't take a bus off the
Unfortunately.
route, yeah.
No.
Because there's still a kid at the end of the road.
Yeah.
There's one
Because
kid.
those 64 could be spattered all over. It would be 2 students in this school, 2 in that school, 3 in that school. Yeah.
Doesn't work.
And unfortunately, that's exactly why you can't just automatically say, well, we can take 2 or 3 teachers in the classroom.
Right,
Correct.
absolutely.
So where we started at the beginning of the presentation was looking at a decrease of revenues of $2.6 million and the decrease in expenditures of $2 million, resulting in a net deficit of $4.7 million. And where we're currently at is a decrease of revenues of $644,000, expenditures of $2 million, and a net deficit of $2.6 million. So that's a pretty significant swing, yes.
2.6 million.
It's still 2.6
That's-
million.
Yes,
that's a
it's still a big
whole-
number.
Any way you slice it.
Right.
So we've addressed $2 million of the budget gap. We still have $2.6 million to address. As I stated earlier, that the state revenue estimates are due out in December and January timeframe. Unfortunately, the final state revenues won't be out until April. But we did have a conversation at one of our ANS meetings, I believe it was last month, about what other budget efficiencies do our ANS members think that we can make, or what other cuts within the organizations can we make. So all that was sent to the superintendent for discussion and consideration.
Well, that much money's got to be in bodies.
Unfortunately.
Right? Where else do you get it?
Well,
Unless we mine gold somewhere.
we're not mining gold anywhere, but we have some other right sizing that we're discussing in terms of positions and what we can do there.
But it's in staff.
It's staff, yeah, it is staff.
So if the full deficit had to be absorbed by staff numbers, what would that look like? How many unfilled positions would that be?
Something like
40.
40?
Probably.
At 60,000 apiece.
60.
I'm just ballparking.
Yeah, that's,
Yeah.
We did get some savings with the realignment of our the law enforcement.
correct.
Yeah, a little bit. There are ways to do it, but they're not pleasant.
No,
And not what we want to do. I mean, nobody wants to do that.
Nope. you don't want the quality of education in this county to decline. You want it to stay where it is. You know, money's not, I've said many times, money's not everything and more is not better, but you gotta have enough to make the machine go. And, Mrs. Superintendent,
We are looking at
Figure it
every way we can to conserve and save where we can. There's a lot of mandates that are coming down from the state that our hands are tied, that we have to provide for these. So we're asking for any support we can get from the locals and the states, state support. That's all we can do. I think it's been generous that our county has held us harmless, but it still doesn't address still the deficit that we have. But we're looking at every area that we can within all of our departments of what we call right sizing, making sure that there is no frivolous spending, that everything is transparent, and that people know where our money is going. And really and truly, when you look at the state facts and you look at across the state, Calvert County, for what it gets for per pupil expenditure, we certainly get a bang for our buck.
Yes, we do.
And that's something
we're
that...
about in the middle of the pack.
But the
And unfortunately,
performance is at the top.
we are considered a rich county. And we know that from living here, that disparity, that we have huge disparities within our county. And that's
Well, we haven't raised taxes, since 1980 or something? Our commissioners have always treated us well.
Yes,
I
they
must say
have.
that. We can't
They
complain
have.
about that.
Our
They
commissioners
They have
have.
strongly supported education, and we're going to count on them to help us do what we need to do to make our quality of education stay where it is. And I think they will.
They support
Really?
education, absolutely,
do.
they do. And they've been very generous. They've always funded over maintenance of effort, and
Yes.
that's not necessarily true in other
Mhm.
parts of the state, so.
But the only expenditures that we're showing, that, it's not that we're growing on a voluntary basis. We've tried to just run a very lean organization. So the only thing, is just things out of our control, healthcare and pension.
Right.
We get a lot for the amount of money we put into it, that's for sure.
Okay, thank you,
Okay,
Ms. McCourt.
thank you.
Thank you.
Next item is an Eagle Scout proclamation. Who has that?
I do.
Cover you? You?
Horty Bazile has distinguished himself among the Boy Scouts of America by being elevated to Eagle Scout, the highest achievement in scouting, and his personal achievement demonstrated leadership, commitment to the principles of scouting, and service to the community have brought him his honor, and to attain the rank of Eagle. Horty Bazile earned numerous merit badges, some of them required and others of his choosing, and Horty completed a community service project where he led a team of 30 volunteers to save the trees which had their roots exposed to the elements and beautify, restore, and address significant stormwater runoff damage at Dunkirk Park. Horty has held a variety of leadership positions in the Boy Scouts, and Horty is a graduate of Northern High School where he participated in track and the Future Business Leaders of America. Horty is now attending the University of Maryland and has been accepted in the School of Business, where he plans on majoring in marketing. Now, therefore, be it that the members of the Board of Education of Calvert County join the family, friends, and members of the Boy Scouts Troop 429 in commending Horty upon the occasion of his attainment of Eagle Scout, and it be further that the school board members wish him every success in achieving his personal and professional goals.
Is there a second in the motion?
Second.
Mr. Shinelli? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. We're getting a lot. I think we've had, Karen, how many Eagle Scouts here recently? It's a great honor. It takes a lot for a kid to achieve Eagle Scout. We're very proud of those youngsters that do that.
Yeah, I was at the ceremony on this past Sunday, or was it, yeah, I think so, that there were two of them, and that troop, 430, I believe they are, said that they did have like 12 in this 1 year. So they're
That's
well
remarkable.
above
Yeah.
the percentage
That
of
is.
Eagle
Let me-
Scout attainment and, nationwide.
And
But that now they've got a dearth of people coming up. They have some young ones now. So we may not see the same volume for next year.
The number are remarkable because if you look at the requirements to become an Eagle Scout,
Yeah.
this is not an easy thing to do.
No,
And,
it's saying like something like 4 to 7%.
That's an important thing on the resume of any youngster that's applying for anything after high school, I think.
I would also like to commend the adult leadership and parents because boys don't make Eagle alone.
Oh,
That is
exactly.
correct.
There's a lot of support for scouting in our county, and that's fantastic.
And I thank them
Yeah,
every
good
time
time.
I'm at one of the ceremonies. I
Okay.
thank them because they're not only enriching these young people's lives by doing that, they're enriching the school system because those guys go into the school, so the Girl Scouts and the Boy Scouts, and become wonderful role models, for that. So it helps the entire community.
I work on Congressman Hoyer's academy appointments, and it's one of the key things we look at. If it's Eagle Scout on there, it does have some immediate weight, along with many other things. Anyway, okay.
Okay.
OPEB trustee appointment.
Yes, I would like to recommend to the board the appointment of Mrs. Christine Jewett. She was hired in March of 2007 as a staff accountant and internal auditor. She graduated from LaSalle University in 1997 with a Bachelor of Science in Business Administration. She graduated maxima cum laude with a GPA of 3.95, Kemper Scholars Program. Her previous work experience included 4 years at American Community Properties Trust as a financial reporting manager and SOX compliance project manager. And prior to that position, she worked as assurance and advisory business services senior supervisor with Ernst & Young, and that was for 6 years. She comes to us with well-versed backgrounds, so
Is
Make
there
a
a
motion to approve.
Mr.
So
Shinelli?
moved.
Mr. McConkey, Mr. Shinelli? All in favor? Any discussion?
I do have a question. Is it an extra duty for extra pay position?
no, it is not. There is no extra duty or extra pay.
You have 3 members, right, on
And there's three members.
And the-
Calvert County Public Schools Superintendent can recommend, and the board appoints 3 members. Christine, you want to stand up? This is Christine Jewett.
We vote.
Hi, thank you for volunteering to do this.
Thank you to Ms. Heisman and Dr. Carolyn for giving me the opportunity to serve as a trustee on the Calvert County OPEB Trust. I look forward to the new challenge, very excited about it, and committed to serving to the fullest. So thank you for your trust in me serving as a representative of CCPS.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? If not, I'll put the question. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carried. And finally, we have one of, number 5 is appeal on 13-21. Of course, we don't discuss that. We just, do I hear a motion?
Oh, is that me?
Someone has a motion.
I haven't.
We
I'm
need more
sorry.
we need more
I need more
papers.
paper.
You need to be more organized there, Mr. Commissioner.
No, I have it. It's here.
I'm just kidding.
Take your time.
Karen, I'm sorry. Where's Karen? I can't find it. I think I
Well,
packed
it's
it
pretty
with
simple, isn't
some
it?
of my other. It is simple. Wait a minute. Oh, that's not it. I'm so sorry. This is the, there's a little bit more to it. I was trying to remember it from memory. Oh.
Because we're giving specific
We
direction.
want to make it official, so
Yeah,
we-
we're giving specific
Yeah.
direction.
the language is,
See, I have it back here.
that's who that was, Jewett. I didn't know. That's what I was asking.
Now Karen is out looking for it. I move that we uphold the decision of the superintendent in appeal number 1321 and further direct legal counsel to prepare findings of facts and conclusions of law consistent with our decision for our review and adoption.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Shinelli seconds. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carried. If there's nothing else, we need to go back into executive session. Someone has a motion?
I make a motion for the Board of Education of Calvert County to go into closed session to discuss personnel actions, to obtain legal advice, and to discuss upcoming negotiations as permitted by Maryland Open Meetings Act, Section 10, TAC 508, A1, 7, and 9, and Section 10, TAC 503 of the State Government Article of the Annotated Code of Maryland.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carried, we're in executive session.
Should we make a motion, some kind of organized?